In 2012, the Pew Research Center conducted a study and found that 45 million Americans have at least one tattoo, with nearly $1.65 billion spent annually. 36% of Americans between 18 and 25 admitted to being inked up, and 40% between 26 and 40 also confessed to having at least one. Tattooing is a form of body modification that has roots dating back to Neolithic times. Otzi the Iceman is the oldest natural human mummy discovered in Europe, dating back to between the 5th and 4th millennials BC. Scientists discovered what appeared to be 57 carbon tattoos consisting of dots and lines spread across his body. It's believed tattooing occurred frequently during these times for healing, based on the placement of them along the lower spine. Other ancient cultures in Europe also have evidence of widespread tattooing, most famously done by the Picts, which translates to painted ones in Latin. More modern tattooing began in the 16th century as explorers came in contact with different tribes from across the globe, in particularly the Polynesians. Explorers quickly picked up on the practice and brought it back to Europe with them. The trend became mainstream in European society, often symbolizing wealth and status, before crossing the pond to America. Meet Jessica Ashford.
You got to be good, little girl.
At first glance, she's a typical, devoted, loving mother trying to find a balance between raising 2 young kids and a career as a registered nurse. Jessica also has 24 tattoos across her body.
The nurse at the top is because I just always wanted to be a nurse.
Jessica says her decision to tattoo herself came about after turning the legal age and because of influences of an ex-boyfriend.
First one that I got the day I turned 18, I guess just out of sheer rebellion or just because I could. I think at the time it was a really influential age that I was at, and the people I was hanging around were all tattooed and into that sort of thing, and I was living that lifestyle. And heavily tattooed women you hardly ever see, and when you do, it's like, oh my gosh, she's either a drug addict or uneducated, or who knows what type of lifestyle she lives or has lived in the past. And I mean, even just walking through stores, sometimes you just feel the eyes on you.
Despite the look she gets, Jessica stresses the importance of not passing judgment on people before getting to know them.
You really need to walk a mile in someone else's shoes before you decide that you know them well enough to place judgment, because I'm not uneducated, I'm not a bad mom, I'm not a Satan worshiper. I have had a great childhood. I don't fit the common mold of what people think they know about people who are tattooed.
Local tattoo artist Quan Poole expresses the same sentiments.
You should never judge a book by its cover. In today's society, we still do, but it's real shameful. You need to get to know a person before you just judge them right out.
When she's not playing wife and mommy, Jessica works as a registered nurse where she is forced to cover her tattoos, something her male counterparts don't have to do.
The only real issue, because I have to cover them for work, is that there are some male nurses who have tattoos that don't necessarily cover them and don't necessarily get scolded for not covering them. But if I was to come to work and have them showing, I would probably be sent either home to change or be sent home for the day, whatever the case.
University of New Orleans business major Dee Ricardo says that in the professional world, especially in business and medicine, appearance is everything.
That is one thing that they preach, appearance. If you have tattoos, all over your arms, that's something that you always have to cover. And if they do happen to see a tattoo, they are probably not going to hire you because they have an image to uphold, and that's just how businesses are today.
According to Quan, tattoos are becoming the new norm in the working world, and you'd be surprised at the people who have tattoos and those that don't. After catering to the every needs of her kids and patients, Jessica enjoys spending time with her second family. Her church family, that is.
You would just jump inside of them, Father.
Jessica was an atheist before dedicating her life to the Lord. However, despite her religious doubts, she somehow knew what to believe all along.
You know, I had been thinking about it, and even the whole few years that I was an atheist, it was still just kind of like tucked away that I really knew what I believed, and I was just kind of putting on a front because this is how my boyfriend lived, this is how my friends lived, and again, I just wanted to fit in with the crowd.
She says she woke up one morning and felt the need to go to church, so she went, with her tattoos covered.
See, when I first started going to church, the church that we go to, I covered him up for probably the first 2 months that I went there, just because I didn't want to be shunned.
After becoming more comfortable with her fellow churchgoers, Jessica decided to reveal her tattoos.
As I began to get closer to the people at the church and they began to know me a little bit more, I felt as if it wasn't going to be an issue. And the day that I came without them covered, it was absolutely not an issue. And that's just one of the reasons why we have never left that church. We have never felt anything but love. We've never felt anything but compassion in our times of struggle. We've never felt anything but rejoicing in our times of triumph. I mean, it's just such a family there.
She says she's had many discussions with her pastor about tattoos and what the Bible says in regards to them.
He is actually the one who planted the seed to me about it's a lot of people have problems in their life, or you know, they've been through a lot of things and they cover it up and they never talk about it, but it's laid out on my arms for everybody to see. It's laid out on my body, and so it's kind of like I'm an open book.
Tierra Watts, who has 7 tattoos and counting, says she doesn't see the big deal with religious people having tattoos.
In church, people get their ears pierced. You putting holes in your body. Yeah. Like, I mean, you can't say, oh, I'm not going to love you no more because you got a tattoo. That's not right. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, it's dust to ashes, ashes, dust to dust. When you go on the ground, a tattoo ain't going, with your soul.
In fact, Watts says there are other devout religious followers doing much worse things than tattooing.
So you gotta focus on worse stuff than tattoos. Now, if I was a prostitute out there, doing something with my body, then you have something to worry about. Now, if I'm going to school, doing what I gotta do, I got my own house, my own car, taking care of my kids, there shouldn't be no reason for you to focus on the tattoo. Yeah.
Any questions or negativity directed at her about her tattoos, Jessica says gives her the chance to turn something negative into something positive.
I'm able to tell them about myself, or maybe I'm trying to make it a moment where I can tell them my testimony and tell them about the Lord, or so I just try and turn them into a positive, because I know that for the majority they're kind of a negative.
Dee stresses that her issues with tattoos isn't necessarily what the Bible says.
You shall not make any cuts on your body for the dead or tattoo yourselves. I am the Lord.
But more so with the fact that it's permanent.
And it's there forever, so I'm just totally against that forever state of mind with the tattoos.
Despite what the Bible says about tattoos, Quan believes when it comes to following the Bible, it's all or nothing.
You just can't pick and choose different scriptures from the Bible like it's a buffet. If you're gonna pick the Bible, you're gonna follow the Bible true and true.
Jessica maintains that when her time comes to meet her Creator, she knows where she stands with Him, tattoos and all.
The Lord sees that, and that at this point He knows me well enough that He doesn't see Him anymore, and He knows my intentions, and He knows that they weren't done out of really spite of Him, and that I'm trying to use them for the good of Him now.
Since the 1990s, and even earlier than that in some places, tattoos have become a big part in mainstream American society. So much so that even Barbie is tatted up. Quan also believes the opinions and acceptance of tattoos is evolving.
It's not as bad stigma on tattoos as it was maybe 10 years ago. And they become more successful. Well, not successful, but accepted in today's society. The reason being because, everyone has them.
Jessica says that she has little regrets about her tattoos and would even consider getting more, but that it's no longer a priority in her life like it once was.
When I became a wife and a mother, it just kind of ceased. I lost interest. My life changed. My goals changed. And I just wasn't into that anymore.
The Pew Center concluded in their study that Generation X and Generation Yers are most likely to express themselves through their appearances, with tattooing being the most common form of expression. In response to this, both Jessica and Quan urge people to think about what they decide to tattoo on their body, and for it to have some kind of meaning. After all, it is forever.
People need to be classy with what they decide to display on their body for other people to see 24 hours a day. You know, naked women, things like that. That's just inappropriate. If that's what you want on your body for the rest of your life, fine. But I don't need my 3-year-old seeing it when he walks by you.
Let's get something that's gonna have a meaning behind it. Something that when you look at it, you can be very proud of every time you look in the mirror. All the time. As you turn 80 years old, and it'll still look good, you look in the mirror like, I'm still proud I got this tattoo. Don't get anything that you're gonna regret.